I in fact remember mailing the founder of Taproot for an internship. They had just started off, right? And these people, Agnalu Diaz and Adi had sort of left JWT and started Taproot. And I remember still mailing them saying that, hey, I'm looking for an internship. Can I come and join you? But fortunately, I realized that before I took up a job in finance. So I took up a job in marketing and I knew absolutely nothing about it, which I feel was a really, really good decision because when you know absolutely nothing about anything, you start reading,
Yeah.
you start consuming content, you start taking up courses. So the first couple of years were really, really hard because you didn't have any theoretical background in marketing. So you had to build sort of your own thesis of how things work and read up a lot, right? Had I
Right.
done my program, I would have had some sense of self-confidence, but I had absolutely nothing. I had to start from zero. And
Right.
fortunately, I had some really, really good mentors along the way. So the first few years were really, really hard, but then over time, I like this field and I've loved what I've done. So the first 5 years I'm there in B2C and the last 10 years I've been in B2B side of marketing and I've enjoyed both sides of the.
Oh, very interesting. So you talk about moving from features to outcomes. What's the biggest mistake brands make when telling their tech story?
So most of B2B marketing is inside out today, right? Because there is no concept of market research. So if you look at how brands go about even doing a positioning exercise, it's all inside out, right? Like, okay, we have ABCD XYZ product, we have XYZ capabilities, right? How do we go and sell this to the customer, right? So nobody is going and asking customers that as to what do you want? What problems can this product solve for you? Right? I think at least the newer generation of founders who are coming out today, they are speaking to customers, doing in-depth interviews to understand, okay, if I sell this to you, or what problems do you have, right? And how do I align the features and capabilities that I've built to the specific problems that you have in the market, right? And even when the product is ready, we have absolutely no clue as to how to sell it. So if you look at the software business in India, for instance, we are looking at the playbook that was built in North America and Europe and trying to understand how do we take this business from 0 to 50 to $100 million or $500 million in ARR, right? Because doing that in the services business is completely different from doing that in the software business. And essentially, it means eavesdropping, speaking to your customers, understanding what pain points can you solve for them, right? And then putting that in a message, putting that into your positioning, right? Going out in the market, right? Which is essentially your go-to market, right? So very few companies have mastered that, right? So once Girish Mathruboodan, who's the founder of Freshworks, once he reached $100 million in ARR, he actually moved to US because some of his investors told him, hey, no company in India has gone beyond $100 million. You've crossed that. Now, if you want to go to 200, 300, $500 million in ARR, go and sit with people in US and figure out how do you do this, right? So essentially, we are still building that playbook. And the way to get there is to one, speak to your customers and also look at some of the best practices that are adopted by companies in North America and Europe, right? Because I think the ideal situation for India is to have at least a couple of companies that have crossed $1 billion in ARR, right? Today, there is just no that comes to your mind, right? So essentially, that is where we should get to. And getting there, marketing has a very, very integral role to play. The rest is just execution.
True. Interesting facts, Suraj. In marketing, the only way you can really support business is to come up with creative ways and innovative ways of reaching out and driving the whole go to market. Of course, traditional efforts continue to stay, but how do you kind of bring innovation in the traditional efforts as well is the game changer. What are some of the core marketing strategies you're championing within your organization, and how are they helping shift the narrative from just awareness to actual business impact?
I mean, Len, this is true for any brand, right? We are essentially trying to do two things. Is we want to drive the pipeline, sales pipeline. And second is we want to build the brand.
Right.
This is true for any organization that you work for, right? Now, as far as driving the sales pipeline is concerned, how can we create content for every stage of the funnel, right? Whether it is discoverability, whether it is consideration, right? Whether it's closure, right? I have X amount of leads in my pipeline. How do I accelerate the sales cycle? Because a typical sales cycle in a business like IT services is 6 months, 12 months, 18 months.
Yeah.
Is there something that you can do to reduce the sales cycle? And reducing the sales cycle essentially is about building trust,
Correct.
right? If I trust you, why would I go to four other vendors to buy something, right? And essentially, you use content to build that trust.
Right.
Videos, white papers, case studies, anything that you can use to build trust so that you can accelerate your sales pipeline and reduce the sales cycle essentially. That's one part of the job. The second part of the job is 95% of your customers are not in the market. 5% of the customers are there in the market. And this 5% is chased by everybody in the market. Right? When I talk of accelerating the sales pipeline, these are the same set of customers or prospects that are also talking to everybody else.
Yeah.
Right? There's only so much you can do with them. For the 95% of the market, right? Can you be that person that they come for advice? Right? With what you are doing with mainstream, you are creating a thought leadership platform.
Correct.
They come to you for information.
Correct.
And when I provide you enough information and help you to be successful in your job,
Yeah.
you will reciprocate by buying something from me.
Correct.
Right? So these are essentially two parts of the equation, right? And as far as building the brand is concerned, it is essentially about gaining trust.
Yeah.
And how do you gain trust? You selflessly help people to solve their business problems, give them right advice, and at some point in time, they will reciprocate by coming back to you and saying that, so since you understand this topic really, really well, why don't you sell something to me, provide me a solution for my problem? Right? I think essentially that is what we are trying to do with the content and thought leadership pieces that we're trying to build.
Superb. I think this was great, Suraj. You really went, very deep in terms of understanding what works, what does not work, and very well put across. Thank you so much. And I'm sure a lot of my viewers will have a takeaway. And also, I kind of validated the things that I am doing as part of our marketing strategy with when you were talking about it, right? So but this was good. So I have a small segment, which is a surprise segment. We're doing a rapid fire. I have a few questions that I would love to ask, and whatever comes first in your mind is what we would like to hear from you. So, are you okay with that?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right, super. So, what's one marketing buzzword you'd love to ban forever?
Out of the box.
Okay. First campaign that made you go, damn, I wish I did that.
This is an old ad from Toyota, which they created for Olympics, where there is this lady whose legs are amputated, but she goes on to win gold medals.
Yeah.
You should definitely watch it if you have not seen it before.
I did, yes. Interesting. Coffee fueled brainstorms or data driven huddles? What gets you going?
I'm essentially a chai person. So
Okay.
I still go with coffee.
Okay. So brainstorming, basically.
Yeah.
Then data driven huddles. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, if you do a pure play database brainstorming, right? The problem is a lot of decisions in marketing are from the gut.
Yeah.
They're not based on data, right? So essentially, it depends on the kind of conversation we are having. I mean, I would still go for a coffee filled brainstorm. I keep making.
One book or a podcast or a blog that you forever go to, and that's your favorite. Like.